everybody. Edna Valentino here. I'm so excited to continue or kick off really this badass series that I'm doing with incredible women who have incredible stories and are doing incredible things with their lives. And today I have my friend Lea Tran, who's in
Hey.
Florida. How are you, my dear?
Awesome. So
Good.
glad to see you. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so let me do the formal bio. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I need to give you my own bio about Lea, okay? Because this is an incredible woman that, like many other people, have slowly gotten little snippets of her story and been like wowed along the way. And all of a sudden, we have something phenomenal. It's her book, I Did Not Miss the Boat, and she didn't. There she is, Lea Tran. So let me dive in. Lea is a dynamic keynote speaker. Yes, she is. I have heard her speak. She is a TEDx speaker and the author of I Did Not Miss the Boat, a memoir of a Vietnam-Hoa refugee, which highlights her personal struggles to overcome the trauma of war, poverty, and social isolation. You guys, this book I read in about 5 or 6 days. I could not put it down. She's a graduate of Villanova University, started her career as a medicinal chemist for 17 years, and was an owner of a high-end drapery business for 10 years, which, Lea, I'm going to be asking you how we went from point A to point B on that one. And as a speaker, Lea inspires her audience to embrace change, to live their lives to their fullest potential. And you can check out her TEDx talk at her website, www.leatran.com. And she's also a wife and a mom of one. She has a son, Alexander, Xander, as you call him, right?
Yes. Yes.
And you live in Florida. So, okay, let me tell everybody that's the formalities and that's all true. But let me just tell you this. I wanted Lea, and I've been begging her to do this interview because of my journey in getting to know her. So Lea and I met about 10 years ago at Toastmasters International, and she was living in Pennsylvania at the time, which is where we met.
Mhm.
And Lea, you took that Toastmasters career and kind of extended it way longer than I did, right?
Well, I dabble. At the time that I met you, I was not even actually putting my full effort. I was just thought that it would be helping me for speaking in front of business owners
Yes.
and clients.
Yes. And
So,
so at those meetings, if you don't know what that is, I strongly recommend Toastmasters. I'm a huge
mhm.
fan. I know Lea is too. For confidence, for public speaking, big shout out to Toastmasters. Find your local chapter and just go. Nerves and all, because we're always nervous to speak in front of the room, right? But it's a great opportunity to start sharing parts of your story. And Lea would tell us certain things about her, how she got to America. And I didn't know anything about this woman. And I'm hearing these little snippets of story. And after every time you would speak, Lea, I would say, oh my God, did that really happen? You know, I remember you sharing one part of your TEDx talk, you know, the pirates on the
Yeah.
boat. And I was like,
Yeah.
no way, Lea. Like, really?
Well, you're not alone. A lot of my friends like, I can't imagine that was you. I was like, wow, there's a lot of things you probably people don't know about me because from the outside, I look just like any immigrant, right? I mean, we assimilate well, we in the mainstream, we make good money, we live in a house just like everybody else. And there's a lot of time that you say that you can't judge people from the cover because you don't really know because every single one has a story. And I'm sure you have a story that is really fascinating that I learned from your TEDx. So I back to you, Gar.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you're totally right about that. And I think that's there. The thing that I loved, uh, well, let me back up for a second. From Toastmasters, Lea would say, you know, do you think people want to hear this story? I'm like, yes. And so fast forward to last year. It was like, has it been a year that you did your
January last year, yeah.
January?
Almost 2 years now. Almost 2 years. January,
Almost 2 years.
yeah.
Okay. So she does a TEDx talk and she expands on that story about the pirates on that came on the boat and more. I don't want to spoil it for you guys because you have to hear the story. She includes some of it and then she decides to write a book. You know, the shy, I'm not so sure that people want to hear my story now has an almost 300-page book and she's working on a second one. Is that right, Lea?
Yeah, that's only up to 25 years of my life.
The stories are incredible, you guys. And here's why I really wanted to do this, because when you hear these stories and you understand what people do to get to the dream of their life, there are so many universal lessons. It doesn't matter if you're in China, Vietnam, or the United States of America. That's where we are all united, right, Lee?
Yes. Yes.
That's
We have the same fear. I mean, whatever block you is that fear, and whatever drive you is that determination. So, I mean, it is very universal.
Yes, it is. So I wanted to dive into a few of the several of the things that came up in the book that we could go back and forth on, so that you guys can kind of get to know Lee. She's all over social media, Facebook and Instagram. She's on LinkedIn. She's got her own website. She's got, what else can I tell them about you,
I
Lee?
have my own YouTube channel, so please go in and subscribe.
Yes, yes, yes. Subscribe to her channel. Buy the book. It's on Amazon. It's got great reviews. I wrote one myself because I couldn't help myself to do that. And so basically the book is a script to the movie, because I used to tell her, I'm
Oh,
sitting here, I can't wait to get my popcorn and see your story on the big screen. So anybody who's a script writer, or, we're going to find somebody to be able to get this book on the big screen. So, because I think it's that important, Lee. I really do think it's that important. If you, with what we're going to talk about today, can make it to America, living the American dream, going through the hardship and trauma that you went through, and you're still here surviving, what the hell am I waiting for? That's what I have to say is, what are we all waiting for? Lee is the story, her story is going to show you that you need to step up bigger. We all do. We all need to go level up and start playing bigger, because there's more for us out there, but we have to have the courage to do it. So let me dive into, I have a whole bunch of,
I just want to say something real
yes,
quick. I mean, you are one of those people out there who just giving a lot of vitamin to people like me needed to hear that. And I want to appreciate and thank you for that, because believe it or not, all of us are very timid, because we were taught to be timid when we grow up. But if you are doing a little bit, even just some word of encouragement, because of you, Edna, when I was in Toastmaster, that gave me so much energy to say that, yeah, maybe my story is worth to tell. Because every single one of us don't think that our story is significant. Look at Frank, the guy that who wrote Angela's Ashes,
yeah.
Frank McCoy. Frank McCoy.
McCourt, is it McCourt?
Frank McCourt. Yeah, he wrote his book in his 50s also, and he said that there's so much significant in him that we don't ever think that we are significant. But anyway, that's beside the point. I'm sorry, I derailed you.
No, 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 you're absolutely right. I think, acknowledging people for their stories and encouraging people is a big deal too. That's a big piece
Yeah.
of all of this, so that we do get that courage. So let's start with your parents. Let's tell
Okay.
everybody, and you talk in the book, this is a tribute to your father too. And he was a huge influence, and the relationship you had with your father and your mother and your siblings was really incredible, and it was so human. I felt like there were the things we like about our parents, the things we don't, the things that make us who we are because of them is really the
Mm-hmm.
bottom line, right? What was your
Right.
dad and your
Right.
mom? What were they like?
Uh, do you have about 3 hours? All right, I'm gonna give you the snippet. Many Asian couple, I don't say all of them, but a bulk of them marry because of the family obligation.
Mhm.
They do it because they think of what is best for the family when they marry a person. I mean, normally, usually at the time that my parents grow up, that's where direction from your parents, they screen out and they would say, this one is good for you, this one is not. And I know I don't want to spoil the book, but very get-go, I told people that my mom didn't really love my dad.
Mhm.
She didn't, and she didn't want to marry him, but she did it out of obligation, and she did it because my grandma sort of begged her. and she thought it was best for the family. And for me, for many years, I felt like I am not the product of love. And you know how it is when you feel like you're the reason that your mom's not happy, because now she's deep into the relationship and she couldn't get walk away, because now not just the husband, but now she has a child to worry about, because if she walk away, this child gonna be fatherless. And you know, that kind of society, you can't have a single mom in China or in Vietnam or in Asia. That's huge, because the husband is always the front, the backbone of everything. People look at you in a different eyes if you are single mom and you don't have a protection in the front. People take advantage of you. So I mean, that is just the beginning of her journey. And I was so always afraid to death that she's going to make me marry somebody I don't love. And
Mm.
growing up, I remember I asked her when I was probably 10, 12 years old, when I start getting a concept of Mary. And I know that one time I was walking up and down the steps in my old house, and I was like, Mom, you're not going to make me marry somebody I don't love, right? I remember asking her that.
Wow. And did you?
Oh God, oh my God. I thank to America, I think I'm actually falling in love madly with the person I marry, and we are have been together, and he's the only one I have been together with for 36 years now, and we've been married for
Yeah.
31 years. So yeah, how old I am, okay, that's beside the point.
All good, girl. All good. That is such a beautiful story of because you came to America, right?
Yeah, I think I get more freedom, and I'm a little more outspoken about, but I don't know what kind of life I would have been trapped into if I were in Vietnam still. Maybe
Yes.
they change. I don't know. But one can never know because we've never been there, right? So
Right, right. So culturally, in one generation, these decisions of leaving Vietnam to come to America have changed your
yeah,
life, in
yeah.
so many ways. Tell me about your dad. What was he like?
He's very traditional, very stereotypical Chinaman.
Which is like what?
He's high temper. He's very disciplined. He loved his family very much, and everything about my dad. What I loved about him is family first. I mean, he's a businessman, but he's always come home to have dinner with us, and he's always make sure that everybody is gathering in the table at dinner time. And there's time I sneak out with my cousin to have, junk food at 3 o'clock, and by 4 or 5 o'clock, I was full, but I still have to eat two bowl of rice because that how I normally eat.
Uh-huh.
And if I were afraid that I will eat less, he will like pay attention, and he was like, why are you eating your dinner? So there's a lot of, I don't think he might, but for me at that time, I was so fearful of my father because he's a man of discipline.
Mhm.
And every single thing I did, I was afraid that dad's going to find out and I'm going to get in trouble. So the fear was just like manifesting in my head. And obviously, he was a disciplined man, and he's not going to hesitate to whip you if he needs to whip you. But that is his way of showing love. And he's always feel like there's always that his job to offer some sort of criticism. No matter how well you do the job, you can always be better, you can always improve. And in the Asian philosophy, if you don't praise your kid, because then you blow up their head, and their noses be sucking out in the ceiling, and they'll be conceited, arrogant, all this thing. It's always about humble, always about I could learn more, I can improve more. So it's good and bad. It's
Mhm.
good and bad, because all my life I just never see myself worth anything, just because I never feel like I am good enough for anything, because there's
Do you
always room
think
for improvement.
do you think that you talk to your son that way?
Oh, it's a whole different ball game.
Mhm.
When I raised my son, who's typically an American kid,
Mhm.
even though he's got that Asian appearance, right? But yeah, I have to really be careful, and many times I think it over before I talk to him, because he would shut me down right away. And I keep saying, you never survive a day with my father. But who knows, if my father's still around, he'll be the prince, because it's different when you treat your kids than your grandkids. I was like,
Right,
either you're not going to survive with him, or he's going to spoil you rotten because you're the son.
right, right. I'm just curious, did Alexander know your story to the degree of what's in this book?
Oh no, he read the book and he's just jaw dropping, just like the rest of the world. I mean,
Really?
he heard me talk about the cam, but he's never really heard in detail that way. You know, when I put things in perspective in a story and in the sequential that it's going on. Yeah, he's just learning, and that's why he want to do a podcast with me, and it's called Roots, so he can have
Yay!
mother and son conversations, so we can bridge the gap about how much he didn't or he doesn't understand me or my parents generation, and how much I should understand him as an American, not as a Chinese son.
Yes, yes.
So it's critical for me to learn that as well.
That's fantastic that you guys are doing that podcast. I
Yeah.
love that idea. Isn't that great? This just keeps the conversation going and
And I
bridging
think,
the
you
gap.
know, a lot of refugee immigrants that come to this country still get a lot of misunderstanding, miscommunication between the generations, between the
Mhm.
different culture, different traditions. And I think this would clear up a thing, not just for us, me and my son, but will help a lot of different refugees and people that who still, like the mom still have their own their own mindset, and the children have their own mindset. This would open up a dialogue that they can actually sit down and level-headed and communicate with each other. Like, okay, you know, for us was there's no rule of privacy. My mom can, you know, not now, but back then she can always go in and dig my stuff, you know, because that is their um the way of they care and they want to look out for you. I can never do that. Even when my son was little, it's like, that's privacy, mom, don't touch, you know. And we
Yeah.
have to respect that because we are not in the other society anymore. So it's very different between about respect. And my mom is like, what do you mean respect? You're my kids, you know. Oh, you know, for them, they are above the law.
Mhm.
You have to respect them, but they don't have to respect you
Mhm.
just because you are a younger generation, in a way.
Right.
I mean,
Wow.
back then, I think, you know, I'm speaking for my own family and for what I was taught, you know,
Uh-huh.
and
Right.
they don't feel like apology to their children is something that they should do. I mean, if you know that they're doing something wrong, that's enough for them. I mean, that's shameful. They never really just come to their kids and say, I'm sorry for that.
Right. Right.
Not with other people's parent, maybe, but my parent, I mean, now is different. But back then in Vietnam, that's not ever something that I would expect from my parents.
Can you explain what a Vietnam-Hoa refugee is?
Okay, so Hoa is
Hoa.
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 Okay, not
Okay.
HOA, not ho.
Hoa. Well, I got the A in there. Hoa.
Right,
Okay.
Hoa, Hoa.
Hoa.
So
Hoa.
Hoa is what the Vietnamese people call us, ethnic Chinese in Vietnam, because a large population of ethnic Chinese. Now, come to think, I mean, there's a lot of people who did not, who don't know the history of Vietnam. Vietnam has been colonized by China for 1,000 years before the French um, colonized them for 100 years. So there's a lot of relationship, and people from China settle in Vietnam for many decades, many generations. And there's a large population of Chinese descent in Vietnam that they are, I don't know now, but back then they were in their own communities. Like they've pretty much segregated. We cluster in our own, and it's a big sector in Saigon that's Chinese, and that's what they call us, the Hoa people.
Okay. Thank you for
And
that explanation.
yes, yes, that's why I think that um, subtact is really important to me because this is not a typical Vietnamese refugee story. And we hear a lot of those Vietnamese boat people that who tell their story. But I think it's important because the Hoa people, the Chinese, the ethnic Chinese in Vietnam, they're so much into their family, making business. They're not very vocal and literacy in the place that where they are writing book and telling our own sub problem. Because for me, I always feel like a minority in Vietnam, and then now I'm a minority and I can't even expose my own real culture because I have to say, oh, I'm from Vietnam, and people like, you Vietnamese, like, no, I'm not Vietnamese. Is so another layer of explanation that yes, I came from Vietnam, but I'm not Vietnamese.
Yes.
So a double identity complex and a
Yes.
double minority identification.
That you're always having to explain. It's like you can never just be you.
Right.
You have to like explain these things. Look,
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
talk about being all of this like limbo,
Hmm.
that you're in. It's like you're exactly what you talked about, being culturally like you live in Vietnam, but you're Chinese and
Right.
you're in America and now you're
Yeah.
trying to assimilate and you don't feel like the belonging piece.
Exactly. I mean, it's just like that's a dilemma of like you're born in the country that was not yours to begin with, because we were in our own Chinese community. We have our own school, we have our own temples, we have our own um, business association, everything. And our system was taught by the Chinese people from Taiwan. Lots of my teacher was actually the education system was following the education systems in Taiwan. And so it's very conflict for me to tell people that, and they it's just like I said, I call myself in a limbo generation because I don't identify anything that was really truly mine to begin with.
Hmm.
Born in the country that's not ours, and then now we get to in a new country that we are struggling to adopt and not understand and not able to explain my own background in 2 sentences. I have to really go in length. And I feel like I'm always in between worlds. It's like the Chinese world, the Vietnamese world, and then the American world. And I don't want to throw off the curve, but also my identity has been shift because my age different, that I have to um trying to cope with that. So that's a little teaser. If you want to know more about why I am actually more complex than a normal teenager girl who come to America, that is another uh curveball that I have to deal with. And
Yes, yes, yes. And I remember that and just thinking, oh my goodness.
so
And you,
I didn't know where I belonged to. Seriously, I
yes.
mean, I would just felt very, very isolated
And to
in my
think
own thought.
that in any high school, I remember my high school years, horrible time
Yeah,
in trying to figure out my identity and who my friends were. And my parents were going through a divorce and just needing wanting to belong. And for me in
yeah,
a small school, and I know you went to private schools too and had great mentors and teachers, but like you're already a teenager trying to fit in and belong, and then you have all of these extra things for you
yeah. I
personally.
mean, don't know how to didn't know how to express myself in English, and
Language,
then
right?
I'm surrounding with kids that are younger than me, so I felt like a misfit everywhere I go, and I can't carry a conversation people my age
Mhm.
or the people of the age that I'm surrounding myself with. And I'm always like mature before age because I am the firstborn, and
Yeah,
firstborn usually you get forced into a situation that you need more than you needed to. And
yeah,
at 16 my mind is already 25, 30. And
yes, right.
that was make it even harder because I felt many times at lost.
Yeah, but it also served you because you were such a go-getter in that and badass, as I like to say. And I don't even know if that's appropriate. Like maybe I should be a little bit more respectful, having
That's
your age
okay.
and
I love
background
being
not
badass
say
in a good way.
yes, in a good way.
So
the government was different in Vietnam. You guys were doing well. I didn't realize you were so segregated until you just explained that now. So you have this life, but everybody's living it, and then the communists come in,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that changes everything. And you said two things in the book that just stuck out at me. You said school became the breeding ground for propaganda. And then number two, I was taught, or everybody was taught, to spy on their parents.
Yeah.
And your parents are like, eventually they said, we got to go. Is that kind of, I mean, that's pretty
Well,
cool
in
on
a
how that all
nutshell, in
happened
a
in a
nutshell,
nutshell.
yeah, because this communist is just like anything you listen on radios, on TV, in school. That's where they heavily put their message out. It's all state message. Whatever the power of the government, they will tell you. And I remember we're totally being brainwashed. So some of the TV station now, the same thing. They say things that is not truth, and they keep saying enough that people will start believing in what they say because they're big TV station, right?
Yes.
And they have some sort of nonsense backup. And in Vietnam is the same way. I mean, all the big name people who want power, so they just bluntly saying lie. And for us kids, we were taught that nobody's important to you, only the government, the back back Ho means Uncle Ho is the leader, Ho Chi Minh.
Yes.
Uncle Ho is
Uh-huh.
your savior, and you got to listen to everything that the Uncle Ho teach you. If your parents have anything that is conflict and say bad thing, you should come and tell your teacher. And they creating a lot of family mistrust.
Yeah.
And um and for me to betray my parents, does no way, right? So I went home and I told my mom, it's like, and then we know that we don't have a future. We didn't have a future because by 1976 or 77, China has erupted with conflict with Vietnam. So now the Chinese minority is being targeted because they don't know who are the people who are from spy from China, or
Oh,
who would
got it.
work for China. It's almost like, when World War II, the Japanese population here in America was being was being, not trust, because they didn't know who's friends and who's foe.
Right.
And the same thing in Vietnam, because they start looking at this big population of Chinese here, and the Chinese people are very strong in economic, and they are holding a lot of power in trading in Saigon. So the only way to cripple them is, anti-capitalism, and they would go into your home and take inventory of everything, and they can confiscate your home at any point in time, just because that they say that you should donate your asset to the people, and the people, who, government.
Got it.
And there's a lot of oppressive things that they did to us, and that caused a massive wave of people thinking, how are we going to be able to survive? Because first of all, our kid is not getting a real education in school, and
Right.
we are afraid of our kids going to turn against us.
Uh-huh.
And then the people, I mean, your neighbors, there's eyes and ears everywhere. You can't trust anybody, even though you think that they're your friends. They can actually, go tell about you, and you would disappear in the middle of the night, and nobody knows where you are or what happened.
Wow. Wow.
And your house will become a news station for some government um, office or something. So there's a lot of things that we were living in fear. And like I said in the book, there's a period of time I have to take my younger siblings to my aunt, because my mom was afraid that they would come in the middle of the night and arrest my mom and dad, and we wouldn't have anybody to turn to. So it's a very heart-wrenching, and we were living in terror all the time.
Wow.
And that's the only way that we felt like, going out to the sea is a death sentence, that we knew, because probably 50% chance of people, maybe 80, 90 at the time, because you don't know who's died or who made it, and you're waiting for months if you get a telegram saying that somebody made it to the refugee in Malaysia, and that's what the hope that we're clinging into. And we did that just because that there are people actually made it to the refugee camp. So so we just, you know, bite the bullet and did it.
And did it, built that boat and had about, you said 500 people on that boat,
Yeah, my
right?
boat is 502 people. That's considering a large boat, because most of the boats, they were a little dinky, under 100 people, or 300 people was the most. But my dad somehow, I mean, he spent a whole year underground, went to the countryside and start this project, and he built the most sturdy, the biggest boat that he can carry as many people as he could. And we were 502 people on that boat.
That is so crazy to me. You guys, listen to the themes that are happening like around us with you know what's going on in the world right now today, right? And what people are escaping from and losing freedoms, and what people are doing to go find freedom, right? And so I really have such a picture of your father. Every time I think of that boat, I think of him
Yeah.
and the danger he was in and going underground to be able to do this. You get on this boat, and then you know, and I think of people around the world, you know, trying what they're willing to risk for freedom. How many times
Yeah.
do we hear, you know, people coming from Cuba to Florida, right?
Right.
And
And
they're
the
back
little
on the
raft.
raft.
It's not even a boat.
Yes,
Somebody swim over.
I know. And you're just like, they're willing to lose their life to
They
find
are.
freedom.
Yeah.
And when you guys, go ahead, go ahead. I know you have
And that's
something.
what I'm saying, you know, during the voting season, I'm always encouraging people to exercise their right, their privilege, because so many people are dying
Mhm.
just to come to be a free citizen so they can have their voice be heard.
Right.
So many of us, even when I came to America 20 years, I did not vote because I didn't think, again, myself, my voice significant. I didn't think that I could make any difference. I didn't think I know enough to vote for who and who. Do your research, do your diligent research, and because that is the only thing that you, the most powerful thing you have in America, your voice, and that represented in that little ballot. And I felt like I didn't do, you know, my civic duty for a long time until I really understand that out of all people, I should be the one who exercised that right, because I was actually fighting so hard for that right.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. You know, and here's, I'm going to expand on that because this is my 2 cents, that we have become an America that is so polarized in
Yeah.
these last so many years, that I also say for the people, I'm open and inviting a third and fourth and fifth option to not have such polarization. And yet
Yeah.
we are the country to do that. We are the
Yeah.
place to be able to have people rise, you know, and take a stand on some of these issues. It
Right.
doesn't have to be so
Right.
black or and white.
That's
So
exactly, that is just sad to even just think that we are either left or right,
yeah,
or red or blue, but we are
yeah,
so much more than that. And this pandemic should be able to pull us all together as a human race and see how we can actually work together to eliminate poverty, to eliminate sickness, eliminate extremists, because anything, I mean, moderate is good. It doesn't matter if you exercise or eat or you know, whatever philosophy. When you are in one extreme condition, that's when things go bad.
yes, out of
Um,
balance.
yeah, you gotta balance it out. You gotta maybe listen to the other side and talk about it. How are we gonna make it happy for both sides? And the pandemic has really brought me back to a lot of the pandemic plus the political polarization really bring me a lot of trigger, a lot of PTSD in me
Wow.
back into the time that I felt like I was so helpless. I can't do anything
Yes,
because the picture is so much bigger than me. You
yeah,
know, it's just like
yes,
everything is so bigger than us. I mean, yes, collectively we are one big part, but individually we are so small. But we can make a difference by just doing our part.
Yes.
We can make a difference when we try to eliminate this virus from spreading. We
Yes.
can make a difference when we start speaking up for the people who are powerless, voiceless, and sharing our story is one way to connecting us, so we can actually understand each other, so we're not so fearful of each other.
Yes. In your TEDx talk, again, Lee has a TEDx talk. You guys spend the time. I forget how long it is. How
It's
long is
about
your
15 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, okay. And they give us those set times, so we know them. But you have a quote. Now, your TEDx talk was done before this pandemic, and you say this, and before this election and before everything, right? So we're almost 2 years now. You said, now what would you do if there was a natural disaster or man-made disaster like war or terrorism that turned your world upside down? How would you go on to rebuild your life, your future? I mean, if that's not universal and a question we should all be answering, right now, I don't know what is. I mean, that is the perfect question to be asking now, that, what happens when life turns upside down? And I think, Lee, to your point, I had my moment. I had a little bit of a delayed reaction with my experience in all of it. I kept thinking, we got this, it's going to end soon. I was very naive
Yeah,
about how all of it was going to go. And I fell apart a little bit there. I remember back in June just having some like time to reflect in a way
yeah,
I had never reflected.
right.
And I don't have your experience, but everything looks secure and fine in my experience in the past, right? And you think it's always going to be like that, and that it's always going to be a certain way. And then you get your world turned upside down, and you throw your husband and your kids in it, right? Our families, our extended families, and everything's like, what is going on?
But come to think about it, Edna, you've been there. You've been there when your parents got divorced. You've been there in the uncertainty, when things that turn your world upside down. You
Yeah.
have been there. I have been there. Everybody else has the journey that they have been there. They just not think back, because think about it. If you can just sit in your living room watching a football game or a movie, eating popcorns, right, before the hurricane came, before the wildfire came in in California, before the
Mhm.
earthquake, the tsunami, you never think that you're going to be a runner, a refugee that run away from the life that you built in that one place. Everything you invested in, devoted in, burned down into ashes,
Right.
flooded by the tsunami. How are you going to go on? You got to make sure that you know that you are the foundation of everywhere you go. Whatever that you bring value, that you have learned all your life, is where you're going to start from the ground up, just like you're starting anywhere. So I want people not to cripple and being frozen.
Yeah.
Yes, you will be. I was, and I'm still am. When in March, that's why I did a a video, a live video, and tell people to calm down. Because I myself was worried. I myself was panicked, because it just out of a sudden, we felt we were secure, we was good, and then out of a sudden, all of everything closed. How long it's gonna last? And we had no idea. Just like I was in the refugee camp. I didn't know how long that life gonna last, but things will be ending, and we have to grapple the moment that we have. How can we swing it around,
Yeah.
turn it around, to create the opportunity that we can do? I mean, I'm taking courses, and I am writing my book, during this time. I am talking to people, connecting with people. What can you control? What can you do with the time, with the disadvantage that you have? How can you turn it around, take the dis away, and make it an advantage, that when you come out of it, you say, oh, I accomplished something.
Yeah.
During that time, everybody was panicked and running around not knowing what to do. You actually grounded yourself and say that we've been that, we
Yeah.
have done this, we can do it
And
again
do it
and again.
again. Yes, absolutely. And that's so spot on because I had my moment back in June and I turned it around and I remember diving into two things and getting into a creative mode,
Yeah.
finding a way to contribute and create and put out there so we get out of us, I think is really good too. And that's what you've done. Your book
You know
came
what?
out in the middle
The
of a
biggest
pandemic.
ingredients here is when you're down, go look for Edna. Go look for somebody who is inspiring, who has the energy that you can just rub off a little bit, because if you are hiding by yourself in the hole, you're never able to get out. But you just get yourself, pick up and see who's the most cheerful person, who's the person that actually can inspire you to do something to get you out of that rut. So
Yes.
uh,
You
surround
gotta,
yourself with the people with big energy,
yeah.
people that who have laughter that you can contagiously laugh at, and little things by yourself, little by little you'll be able to get out of it. But
Yeah.
it is hard to go from a fetal position to a jump up and say, oh, I'm going to do this. You got to inspire yourself little by little and
Little
find the,
by little,
yeah.
day by day. Yeah. You went into all these refugee camps that, and for some reason I will always remember Lu Tang. Is that how you say it?
Oh yeah, letong.
Like Dong. Okay. And it was, these different places that had people who had, they were entrepreneurs. You guys became entrepreneurs. Every time you went to a refugee camp, you and your mom started sewing clothes for the people and selling and making money. You guys
Again,
always
yeah.
found a way to make money and to survive no matter how horrible everything was. You went to the next place, you started making new things. It was like, I could just see you guys like getting to work, and this is what you're talking about. Give. Where's the need? Let's fill the need,
Yeah.
and so you go to these refugee camps and then you find a way to get to California. How did you get from the last refugee camp to California? What is that process like? How do you
Well,
get a
yeah, it was not California. California was just a
stopping, a pit
a
stop?
stopping point that we,
Yeah.
yeah, Minnesota. That's where we
Minnesota, you guys, like that is the funniest thing. And you were the only family,
on
right?
January 3rd,
On
out of all
January 3rd to Minnesota, 100 degrees
when it was like
Vietnam.
7 degrees Fahrenheit.
Somebody was laughing.
Yes, going from a 98, degree tropical climates to I think single digit degree on that night at midnight on January 3rd, 1980.
Wow.
It was hilarious. But you know what? It's such a great experience. That was a place that I think we purging out all the stress. We purged out all the trauma that we experienced from all this. I mean, we were surrounded in a bubble of love of the people
Oh,
with warm-hearted that sponsor us from a small town, no more than 700 people. We were sponsored by this Lutheran church, and I'm still connecting with the pastor. After 40 years, I sought him out, and he was actually the person who helped edit my book.
I know. And he
Yes,
wrote what Pastor Tim and Nancy
Rauk. Yeah,
Rauch, and they wrote "The Honor Was Ours," Lee. I mean, and he wrote a couple pages in there,
wrote
and
about
it was
5 pages. Ah,
Onamia. Is that how you say it?
Onamia.
Onamia, Minnesota.
Yeah,
And you got, I mean, the people, that was like, that is the Midwest in
yes,
America.
yes. And there's the warmest people, and they gave us love, and I reconnected a couple more people from that circle, and I really want to go back there and gave my first book tour, launch my book tour,
Ooh,
but coronavirus had dampened that, and I still hope that eventually I can go back there to that town and thank the people in that town for the love they gave us, for the not random act of kindness, because that was really planned out, because they plan out they're going to sponsor this family, 7 people, 5 kids with 2 parents, and the town, lots of people chipping. It took a village to raise our family back to where we were and nourishing us. And so we took the courage to move to Philadelphia and be in the jungle of the West Philly and deal with things. But that 6 months period in Onamia, that's where we actually gained a lot of real American lifestyle and the real genuine love from the American people that's always looking out for the misfortunate people, for people that they could help. It's just such a great experience. And
Yes. You know what I got from that as a reader, Lee, what I got about that time was that when I donate coats to the local shelter that helps maybe refugees
yeah,
or whoever might need them, or a
yeah,
new family in town. We have a lot of Latinos in and Hispanic families in
right.
our town. And there's a lot going on with the language. There's a lot of donations. We're always supporting. I mean, we have got the most philanthropic town. I'm so proud of Phoenixville,
That's
Pennsylvania.
great. Yeah,
But what you did for me was actually understand, like, I really I'm like, wow, if these people could come together. Like, I remember if you needed a ride, you didn't have a car, somebody was always there to pick you up. That ride meant the world. Having
yeah,
coats, for winter already there at the house was the world. Filling your refrigerator with food meant the world. And then those little things matter. And I think sometimes for me personally, and I'll just say this, sometimes I think, well, how would that matter, right? Or the Lutheran church sponsoring one family, but there's so many out there on the boats in the ocean that need. Does it really matter? Yes, it matters. And
yeah.
look at you now, like that your family was that family, and you had 4 or 5 siblings, right? You're one of five. One of
Yes.
five. And so 7 people, to take in and shift your life the way it has, it matters, to do that one little thing.
So Edna, I want to inject this also because um I think it's so critical, even though people don't tell you how much they appreciate it, in their heart they will never forget the act of kindness you gave them when they're at the rock bottom. I
Oh,
mean, now if you give to somebody who don't really need it, they don't care. It's just another purse. It's just another, car or whatever. But to the people who actually
mm,
depend on it, you know, for their life, I I sought back to those people who taught my mom and dad English at the time. And
oh,
in the
wow, yeah.
blizzard, she come out with a little baby. She just had a little baby, and she came out day after day. I mean, I know how much appreciation that our family have for them. It doesn't matter how far we apart, we don't know each other, we didn't talk, but we know that that person made a difference in our lives. So, you know, like I said, it matters. It matters a lot. And
Mhm.
we will never forget. The people you help will never forget, even though you don't know how much they appreciate, or even though they don't tell you how much they appreciate, but they appreciate. Trust me, they appreciate big
That
time.
is that is so huge right there, because you were only there 6 months and they made that much of an impression, and that's the first impression of America. And then your dad says, I think we need to go to Philly. You have some family in Philly, but to look for more work, right? And then that's where a lot of your schooling in high school that you got, and your siblings. And the two things that I got out of your experience with Philly, just as a reader, was number one, how important education was. And you went up and down and sideways and over and under, asking people for what you needed to get into the best schools, not only for you, but for your brothers and sisters too. Like, to be able to, like, find that. And the
Yeah.
second thing was the work ethic that I knew your dad had in Vietnam. But when I saw what he was willing to do and what your mom was willing to do and what you were willing to do, it was like everybody had their role. We're going to go to school and we're going to go to work and we're going to make this work. And the story about the blueberry farm in New Jersey, when you guys were getting up as a family, all 7 or 6 of you, 3 a.m. to take a van or a bus over to New Jersey and pick blueberries for $20 or whatever you made at the end at 4 p.m. in the heat of the summer on the East Coast. that blew my mind, and I hope that will be a scene in the movie. Tell me about those two things, education and the work, like what you guys did.
Okay, so that's a lot in one plate, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna
okay.
try. So education has always been very important to my dad because he's never got a chance to get over third grade. His dad died when he was 10, so he had to actually quit school and be out, hustle and bustle, and build whatever he did build for our comfort, for our family. And my mom never got over fifth grade. So if between the two of them, they even didn't have a high school diploma to show up. And so to my dad, he died for education. He would do everything so we can get the education, because to him, education is not just to get a good job, but to have a well-rounded person to understand everything. So for him, so he instilled, I have to give him a lot of credit, because he already put in our head that if you want to get out of poverty, if you want to be somebody, you have to have that piece of diploma. So for me, I mean, when I was out of school in Vietnam, that was my desire. That's my dream about getting to a free world so I can have an education. And the minimum is to, get to college and have a college degree. And I have to say that I'm really proud to say that I was the first one in both sides of the family who had a college degree. And I chose not to go further in master, in advanced degree, even though I took many graduate class and never really claimed credit for it, because I see that I want to be creative. I want to be more. I want to learn from self-development. I want to learn from people that I admire, instead of locking myself down into one area of science or something. So I could be wrong. I don't know, but I was my focus shift after I get my degree. So what's the
From
second
Villanova
thing you?
University. I have to put
Yes.
that in there. My father-in-law graduated from there, so shout out.
Yeah, why cat? Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud. I'm so proud that I went to Villanova. And again, that's, another great experience. But for high school was tough, because high school, even though I got to high school, I had so much to catch up. I didn't really have time for social. First of all, I didn't know where I belong, because, like I said, the age gap was the difference. And then the language is the barrier. And the third thing is I was chicken. I was so fearful. I did not seek out to make friends, because I didn't think people see me as equal, because, this refugee kids. And so I'm always put myself in the lower rank, and always think of myself less than what I can offer. So I'm always withdraw. It's not anybody's fault. It's my fault. And now I'm thinking of it, if I have to tell that 16 years old girl, I would said that be brave and be yourself and make friends. And don't be afraid that people are going to look down on you. That's what my biggest fear, that people look down on me because I was a refugee. I came to America with no money, and I can't tell, I don't have inheritance. I don't have my dad and my mom are just, nobodies. So, but that's so wrong, but that's why I determined to succeed with advanced degree, with advanced education. And
Mhm.
the third thing you were asking about the blueberries, yeah. Everybody has their role in that time. We didn't know we were fighting for survival. We just know that that's what we need to do, because that's how we need money to survive. And everybody is doing their part, and everybody is doing what they supposed to do. Um, you know,
Yeah.
what,
And they kind of go hand in hand, the work ethic in education, because what was your degree in? Chemistry?
yes.
Like you listen. um this just blows my mind, like thinking of this young girl with her family on a boat, pirates attack the boat. You're in refugee from camp to camp to camp, trying to make it at each one. You get to America for the love, like, and then you have the love of people who help you and teachers and mentors along the way who help you go. You get into Villanova University, and then you study sciences, which is already difficult, you know? And I was just like,
Edna, science is actually a lot easier than English literature.
well, I think I actually agree with you on that. but I see
I didn't have to speak. I didn't have to write.
Oh, very nice. That's great.
All I have to do is generate lab report, and lab report is what? Collecting data, observation. Very easy actually to me.
That's great. I was really reading that like, oh my God, this girl is like brilliant. And you are, but I get that piece too. And you took it on for 17 years in pharmaceuticals, and you've got patents. I don't think I knew that, Miss
Well,
Lee.
yeah, patent is, I have name on a compound that it became a drug that treat AIDS outside in 1998. That compound became a drug that for a cocktail treatment for AIDS. But it's not, I don't want to say too much of it because it's not my drug. This is a team effort. It just happened to be the compound that it came out of my hood, my film hood. I was actually the first one who made the first milligram. So I'm really proud of that. And
Wow.
it is all team effort. And I'm so glad that I was so fortunately to be able to work with a bunch of really smart Ivy Leagues graduate, postdoc and doc and scientists that super smart, and I learned so much from them.
How did you get from the sciences? And I think you kind of gave us the answer just a couple minutes ago, to window drapery business for 10 years. Was that the creative
Well, I
side of
mean,
you?
I sew. I love the creative. I love the fashion. I'm a girly. Uh, and
You are a
I
fashionista, girl. You be up there talking about it, giving your speeches and her cute little outfits. And if you see her picture, she's always pulled together and always.
Well, sewing is my thing. I love to sew. But sewing for people is very different than drapery. And it all spawning from I want to make drape for my own home. And then I have people coming in and they didn't really like educate me of the style, the fashion, and they just like, oh, this 3 windows gonna be 5,000. And I was like, what? So I was like, I want to go into that home fashion because home is where you create love and you nurture your environment, relax or whatever. It's make a lot of impact on people's psychology. If you get into a bright home, you get headache all the time, you become cranky. There's a lot of things that you don't really see it right offhand, but if you walk into the home that's well decorated and drapes nicely on the windows and privacy and whatnot, that affecting a lot. And my creative side, just like, what I did science for a long time and I love what I did, but now what else is out there that I'm missing? And I'm, every day I was inside in my lab space and making reaction and chemical reaction. And I always look out into the window and I was like, what else out there that I'm missing? I want to be able to see people, talk to people, and I know I'm making medicine is making impact on humans' health, right? But I don't see those patients. I don't see the difference that I make. I want to really be out there and do an direct impact that I can see people smile when I put the drape on because they have a graduation, they have guests come from out of town, and you know, I want them to feel proud to be in the space that they're in.
Oh, I love that.
And that's how, I decide that I'm just gonna do a volunteer layoff so I can take my own risk and creating my own dream life that I want. So, I
What a
mean,
risk
science
it was.
taught me a lot
Yeah.
also when I get out in the business world. So nothing is wasted. My
Okay.
education is still here. I still use it every day for a lot of things. So
Yeah, that's so great. And then, in the story, and I couldn't believe this, your father passed away on February 9th, which is also your husband's birthday.
Yeah.
And you said he passed the baton. And now you have married this amazing man that you got to choose, that you met as a teenager, right?
Yeah.
About a teen. So you've had that much time together and go through this journey together. And you have a son. And how old is Alexander?
He's 25 going on 26. Yeah.
25.
I know. Yeah, I'm old.
And part of that story of when you were 25 is in this book, and we have just touched on the cusp of this book. What I would recommend you guys is read this for yourself and finding the lessons for you. What I got out of this was really feeling inspiredly to, what am I waiting for? Like, am I, go do more? Like, if Lea Tran can have the story that she just had and be as successful and uplifting and sharing that story and giving back as much as she does, we can all do that. We can all do it. And I may be doing it in my way, but I also know where I'm like afraid. I know where
Yeah.
I'm holding on to the guardrail, as you say, right? I got to let go and go take that risk and be courageous. And these are these lessons that you learn through Lee's story, which might sound like the craziest story you've ever read, but the lessons are for all of us and for all of us to take.
And if I can do a big little plug, if I
Yeah.
could, I found the mission for me now. I mean, even though that many years that I have trying to support domestic violence and homeless and all this thing, but I just found this group of refugee families that still trapped in Malaysia um, for years and years and years. So those are the people I really want to help. My mission now is be their spokesperson, because when you are a refugee, your status is nothing compared to anybody else. You don't have a country that you call parents. Like, you are the orphan of the world. And
Wow.
this children, I see myself in them, and they're trying to help the community by doing videos, editing and graphic design, just because one person she's a singer songwriter. Her name is Jana Stanfield, and she founded this um, organization is called the Refugee Film School. Together for Good Refugee Film School. She is training all these teenagers um, to make a living, to how to be able to use their skill to go forward. It's like an education for them, instead of generating a generation of seamstress and hotel cleaners. Nothing wrong with that,
Right.
but they can have a chance if some people sponsor them with a computer, or giving them, food on the table, so they can focus on how to design things for global. Anybody can hire them to make branding, to do graphic design, to, just like you hire people on Fiverr, and you actually
Yes.
hiring these kids so they can help their family make a living,
Wow.
and giving them hope. Because, being a refugee, you don't have any hope until you become somebody's citizens, right? I mean,
Yes.
if you are staying in somewhere that they are fearful for their safety all the time, and I have been there in Indonesia as a refugee, and I know you are worthless, because you are not, nobody speak up for you.
Wow.
Everything is depending on the charity, the kindness of other people. So if you think that you could help me in my younger version, this is the place that I want people to know, that refugees are still real. There's still
Yes.
people out there waiting for settlements. And if anyone could help them, I am sure that they will remember all their lives, just like I am remember that people who helped me all my life. I will
Yes.
never forget.
Oh my gosh, the way you are paying it forward is something else. We will definitely share that information and be able to connect people. You talked to me about this before. I saw you post that on my page, and I'm excited to learn more about that organization, because
Thank you.
this is really
And they need mentor. They need mentor with high energy, like me, like you, like your friends, because we can actually make a difference. And this is where the difference is going to be expand, because it's going to ripple. They learn it. They teach their youngest brother and sister. Like, whatever I learned, I taught my younger brother and sister, and they become successful because somebody else was there making an influence on them.
yeah.
And, you know, we need to transfer that energy, because that's how we build our legacy. Because one day that when we're gone, those are the people who are going to carrying the flag and keep going on.
Yes, beautifully, beautifully said, Lee. And if we can make the difference in one generation through like your story as an example, we can do the same thing for
Yes.
everybody else that
Yes.
quickly. This is not
Yes.
something that is short-lived. We just need to get to them and educate them and
Yeah.
then give them the opportunities, right?
The opportunity. Don't let them miss the boat. You don't miss the boat of helping them, and you don't want them to miss the boat of being successful
That's
and
right.
be somebody.
Well, I'm going to wrap up with the quote that you actually start your book, and it's from Maya Angelou. And you say, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you." And high five, Lee Tran.
It
You
feels
have,
so good to be able to unload. And thank you so much for the opportunity of telling my story. And thank you so much for always being my champion, cheering me on. And I really, really, really love and appreciate you, Edna,
ah,
for who you are. You are always shining spotlights on the people around you, and you make a difference, my friend.
thank
You
you.
have
Oh my God, I love you. I will not stop being your cheerleader, girl. I'm still going to wait for that movie. And I am so excited for what you are doing and who you are in this world. You are a light, and everybody needs to hear your story. So, you guys, get this book and get two, because I have a second one too, and go share it with somebody. If you have, we were talking about diversity departments in organizations, right? If your company has a diversity department, buy the book and share it. If there's, I have a friend, I think from high school, I need to give the extra book, who works with
book
the
club,
Chinese
book
group
clubs,
club, book
library, and
club. Yes,
high school
exactly.
kids.
Yeah, we need to, if we're going to talk diversity, this is a story that needs to be told, because the refugee story is huge, and Lee is a living example of that story and then giving back. So, girl, thank you so much. Everybody go to
Thank
Lee's
you so
website.
much.
We will put all this information up. I thank you for your time today, and we will talk very soon, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, you badass. You
Bye.
badass.
Thank you. Back at you.
We'll talk soon. All right. You can reach out to Lee at any one of the links below. Thank you so much for watching.